More questions and answers about a hijacked ship. The 8 men who were said to have hijacked a cargo ship in the Baltic Sea in July were locked up weeks ago. They were declared pirates, hunted down by the Russian Navy, captured without a fight, and marched before television cameras to a Moscow jail. But the swashbuckling tale, rather than ending there, has instead grown more mysterious and more confusing. What exactly befell the ship called the Arctic Sea is still largely unknown. In fact, nearly 8 weeks after it was supposedly liberated by the Russian Navy, the ship is said to remain at sea under military control and has yet to make port for needed repairs. 4 members of the ship's crew have not been able to leave, despite repeated calls by their families for their release. A dearth of official information has intensified the mystery surrounding the ship, whose travails have whipped up relentless speculation since it lost contact off the coast of Portugal in late July. And as if the situation were not grounds enough for conspiracy theories, a bizarre detail has emerged. After seizing the ship, the hijackers sought to change its name by painting a new one on its hull, Russian officials said. The new name happened to be one that was already registered to a North Korean ship. Something certainly happened out there, but we are not allowed to talk about it, said the second in command on the Arctic Sea. Like the other 10 crew members permitted to leave the ship who have flown on a military transport to Russia on August 20th. The second in command said he was under orders from Russian prosecutors not to provide details about his ordeal. He did say that the Arctic Sea was not carrying a secret cargo. There was only lumber on board. I was personally in all areas and in the ballast tanks, he said. There is nothing else in there. I can say this with 100% certainty. Russian investigators have said the same thing, but the assertions have done little to dampen the rumors. Why would 8 men attempt a brazen act of piracy in heavily monitored European waters? Why would Russia send warships from its Black Sea fleet to chase him a full 3 weeks after the hijacking occurred? In September, a secret visit to Russia by Israel's Prime Minister set off fresh talk among some experts who suggested, without any proof, but Israeli intelligence agents had uncovered a plot to smuggle missiles or other weapons aboard the Arctic Sea to a so-called rogue country. According to Russian investigators, 8 men, 2 Latvians, 2 Russians, and 4 Estonians, raided the Arctic Sea, which flies the Maltese flag, on July 24th off the coast of Sweden, having overtaken the ship in a small speedboat. Then, supposedly, they took control of the 4,000-ton vessel, navigating it into the open Atlantic after evading detection by maritime authorities through some 2,000 miles of heavily trafficked waters. Then, the Russian Navy intercepted the ship 300 miles off Cape Verde on August 17th, and, again, supposedly, arrested the hijackers without firing a shot, officials say. Photographs on the website of the Prosecutor General's Investigative Committee purport, or again supposedly, show the lumber cargo in a bullet hole in one of the cabin walls. The photos also show a new name, the Janjin II, and identification number painted on the ship's stern and bridge. Both the name and an identification number painted on the ship's stern belong to a North Korean bulk carrier that was docked in Angola at the time, the Russian Foreign Ministry has said, but it has offered no further explanation. Yes, that is very confusing. Nick Blackmore, editor of the British-based maritime safety magazine, Safety at Sea International, said the ship's true identity would be difficult to mask even with the new name, and has suggested the hijackers could have picked the name randomly. I would be surprised if you could go into port with the vessel named differently, he said. It is not a general cargo ship, the John Gen 2. It's a different type of vessel, and it will look distinct from the Arctic Sea. Russian officials first said the Arctic Sea would be taken to a Russian port, but then said it would dock at Las Palmas in the Canary Islands. But for reasons that are still unclear, the ship was not permitted to enter Las Palmas. For the last week, the ship has been anchored in the Mediterranean, 65 miles from the Strait of Gibraltar, said the ship's Finland-based owner. He said he did not know what the Navy planned to do with it. More confusion. I know where it is located, but I don't know what further will happen, the owner said by telephone. There's been no contact with the ship. This month, a Russian Foreign Ministry spokesman said Russian officials had finished inspecting the Arctic Sea and planned to hand the ship over to its owners. Given the end of the investigation, Russia does not see the necessity in detaining the ship and does not have those intentions, he said. Yet the Navy had given little indication they would make good on such promises. Twice, he said, company representatives have sought to board the ship after getting permission from Russian investigators. Nevertheless, the ship was not handed over. A Russian Navy official, who would not give his name, suggested that any delay was the ship owner's fault, but the Navy had fulfilled our task. We liberated the ship from these hijackers, so they say. The hijackers, meanwhile, continued to deny any wrongdoing, maintaining that they were ecologists conducting research in the Baltic Sea when they encountered inclement weather and sought refuge aboard the Arctic Sea, further confusing this whole issue. Now, the captain and 3 other crew members still cannot seem to get off the ship, according to their families. The men remained on board to help pilot the ship after the rest of the crew went to Moscow, but have been on board now for almost 3 months, and they will not let them off. Last week, the wives of the men sent a letter to the Prime Minister, Putin, of Russia, asking him to secure their passage home. One of the women said in a telephone interview that she could not remember the last time she had spoken with her husband. There is no information about them, she said. Yes, this is a very confusing story. There's something not right with it. And yes, it's just about chaos and confusion in some kind of way with this story. What really happened on the Arctic Sea? What is it really about? And there's something much more going on here in some kind of way. And everything is connected. And these are more signs of the end times transition days. And yes, a transition is a process. It is an effect. And it's happening daily all around the world.